Katera Rising, Book 1 of the Shadowsoul series, written and read by J.D Evergreen. Author note: this audiobook will be released in stages over the next few weeks, so be sure to like and subscribe so you are notified when the next part is live. Chapter 1.
Where is Gladiator 1408?
Called the high-pitched voice. My eyes dart over to the source. A sickly green goblin with tiny brown eyes. He stands nearby, not even 2 feet tall, clad in a dirty yellow tunic that is far too tight for him. I eye his massive flabby stomach peeking out from under the hem with distaste. 2 guards unlock my chains from the wall, ensuring the heavy iron handcuffs are still clasped around my wrists. I resist them, but one holds up a heavy metal baton, and I stop. It's reckless to get myself hurt now. I would still have to go into the arena. The goblin glances up from his clipboard to squint at the world around him.
Where is Gladiator 1408?
I'm shoved forward and I glare down at the poorly dressed goblin. My name is Clae. This earns me a heavy blow from the guard's baton across my shoulders. I let out a small noise of surprise and level the guard with a glare. The goblin grunts and squints up at me, his eyes watery from the effort of focusing in the firelight. After a moment, he decides I am unimportant and addresses the guards behind me.
Put 1408 in a cage. She is up next.
A pair of guards push a cage toward me and it creaks ominously. I can't help it. I try to back away. Seasons of experience have taught me what's coming next, and I want no part in it. I'm picked up and forced into the cage. The door slams shut behind me and the whole metal frame rattles from the force. I struggle to find footing on the bars below. They are slick and coated in moisture. After a few moments of slipping, I manage to find my balance and turn around as best I can in the cramped space. The cage itself is barely big enough for me to crouch in. Defeated, I take a deep breath and shove my arms between the cage bars, holding my hands out so the shackles can be removed. It's better to cooperate now and have them removed than go out there with them on. The guards remove the shackles and await further instruction. We remain still for a long time. My legs cramp from the awkward position, and an overbearing metallic scent fills the space. Our torches move closer, and I inspect the bars at my feet in the flickering light. I discover the reason for their slickness. They are coated in blood. I adjust as much as I can and press my face against the cold bars, trying to escape the scent surrounding me. At last, the order is given for my cage to be wheeled into the arena. The guards push me towards the cave opening flooded with harsh light. As we approach, the gate jumps open. Me and my cage are shoved into the light, and the gate drops between me and the dark holding pen with a loud crash, trapping me in the blinding world on the other side of the door. Blinking, I try to take in my surroundings, but the harsh light makes it difficult to keep my eyes open for more than a few moments at a time. I inspect my sore wrists where the chains rub them raw, but I can do nothing about it now. Grumbling, I peer through the bars and look around the arena. The arena lights give everything a strange color, and I blink my watery eyes, trying to shed the temporary difficulty this bright light has given me. I carefully shift my feet on the cage bars and study the arena layout, but my eyes are inevitably drawn to the enormous high-rise stands filled to bursting with goblins. Skin tones of every color speckle the stands, filling the brown bleachers with all the colors a painter would never choose for their art. Amongst them, though in far fewer numbers, are off-duty scarlet guards and other creatures unfamiliar to me. From the stands come horrid screeches that can only be interpreted as cheers, no doubt brought on by the excitement of the battle to come. This is the last match of the day. Goblins everywhere push and shove each other, trying to get a better view. Many of them exchange blows, trying to get the seat of someone in front. A loud screech signals the rusted front of my cage opening and draws my attention away from the stands. Hesitantly, I step from the cage and onto the sticky sand. I peer at the other end of the arena, but both gates are closed. One is for human opponents and the other for beasts that could be unleashed at any moment if a gladiator battle is too boring. I scan the ground in search of a weapon, and I spot a glint of metal. I stoop and grasp the hilt of a dagger half buried in the sand. At least this time they left me a weapon. Every so often, only one gladiator receives a weapon. Usually, when that gladiator has ticked off the guards that bring them in. I have been unlucky enough to go through that twice before. I shake my legs out, dispelling the pins and needles. I brush a strand of earth-brown hair away from my eyes, wishing I had anything better to tie my hair back with than an old knotted bandage. My eyes dart around my surroundings, collecting information, like the triangularly shaped battleground, the lack of obstacles, and the gritty orange sand beneath my leather boots. I guess they chose a desert theme for today's fight. My eyes linger on the bloodstains spread throughout the arena. I crinkle my nose. More will be added to the sand before the day is over. The sounds of thousands screaming draw my attention once more to the stands. I watch them clap, bellow, and stuff their faces with the food the slaves carry on large trays. I drag my eyes from the monsters to a rare addition to the arena. In the center of the stands sits a dark grey platform. Scarlet officers surround the perimeter, and they stand at attention. In the middle rests a throne made of bones. The throne is grotesque and intimidating, but I suspect that's probably the point. A figure lasers on the throne, its face hidden in shadows. I squint, just making out the shape of twisted horns, the suggestion of blue skin, and a high-backed cloak. Emperor Darkmoor. My heartbeat roars through my ears, and my hands curl into fists as I stare up at the creature whose fault it is that I am here today. The one who is truly responsible for the bloodstains strewn across the sand. My hand brushes the covered brand on my left thigh. My fingers run across leather, feeling the bubbled skin beneath that marks me forever with the hated slave number 1408. This number is accompanied by a sword. Together they mark my identity and role, a symbol of my enslavement as a gladiator and a captive of Emperor Darkmoor. Though it's hidden under my worn leather pants, I'm always aware of its presence and the reason for it. I glare up at the platform. A cheer announces the arrival of my opponent, and I pull my eyes from the platform to a man strutting across the arena like he was born for this moment. Along the way, he stoops to pick up a weapon, and I don't know if that makes me feel better or worse. When he rises, he holds a heavy wooden two-handed mallet, which hardly seems fair. I grip my dagger tightly and work my jaw. He is a big man. Even from a distance, I can tell he's taller than me, and muscles bulge everywhere, each of them fighting for dominance as the man moves through the arena. How did he get enough food to support it all? I glance at the roaring crowd. It is not unusual for goblins to bestow gifts on their favorite gladiators. Even I have received a few meals from them, usually after the guards had taken what they wanted first. Is it possible this man has enough supporters to feed him, or is he a willing gladiator? The son of a scarlet guard who elected to fight in the arena for glory? I push the thoughts away. It doesn't matter. He is my opponent, willing or not. If I want to survive, it will have to be through his loss. Scars litter the man's body, clear signs of how many battles he has fought, or rather, how many he has won. His dark brown pants stand in contrast to his bare chest. Ice blue eyes stare at me, and even from this distance, I find them unnerving. They look me over, assessing me, deciding if I am a threat. My opponent flashes an easy smile, runs his hands over his short beard, and turns to face the crowd. The beings in the stands go nuts and chant, 2013, over and over again. The man spins in a circle, holding his arms open as he stares up at the stands, and the creatures there lap it up. As he turns, I notice a slight limp on his left leg. Perhaps it is an existing injury? Using his injury against him is an advantage I will have to consider if I have any hope of making it out of the arena alive. Not stupid, I can see how strong this man is, and I have little chance of overpowering him. It will be intelligence, not strength, that will win me this fight. The giant man lowers his arms and closes the distance between us. He throws his heavy hammer from hand to hand and sends me a savage grin.
Ready to play?
I grit my teeth and ignore the question. I ready my dagger and step into a fighting stance, waiting for the battle to begin. Chapter 2. A loud clang echoes through the arena, signaling the start of the battle. My boots crunch in the sand as I spin away from my opponent, attempting to keep a healthy distance between us. He will crush me like a bug if he gets hold of me, and from the smile on his face, it looks like he will enjoy doing it too. The man misreads me and pounds his chest with his fists.
What's the matter, girlie? Don't like playing against the big leagues?
He reaches for me, and I land a solid punch to his chin. the prickles of his beard grinding against my knuckles. "This isn't a game," I hiss. The man wipes his lip and laughs darkly.
Oh, but it is, and when I tear you apart, I will enjoy the sweet melody of your screams.
He pauses and winks at me.
Maybe I will keep you alive and request you are given to my biggest goblin supporter.
He gives me a malicious grin and his eyes sparkle with a sinister joy. My stomach gives a sickening lurch. This isn't just trash talk to get inside my head. This deranged man is actually having fun. He swings and I respond too late to his attack, and his hammer clips my shoulder and rattles my body like an earthquake. I stumble, duck, and thump him in his injured leg with the butt of my blade. He lets out a bellow and staggers back, his hand awkwardly clutching his thigh. I stoop to pick up a handful of sand, and the grains cling to the blood on my hand as I rise to my feet. When had I started to bleed? That hammer must have broken the skin. My opponent rushes towards me. I throw the sand at his face, and it explodes into millions of fine particles, sticking to his skin and clinging to his eyes. He runs blindly, and I effortlessly sidestep his charge as he blunders past. The man bellows in outrage and wipes his face, trying to claw the sand from his streaming eyes. I steel my courage and dart behind him, swiftly kicking the back of his legs. My sharp jabs send him tumbling to his knees. On his way down, his massive hand closes around my forearm and I am dragged forwards. The pungent odor of his sweat bombards me and rivals the metallic scent of the blood in the sand near my feet. He twists, grains of sand still in his reddened eyes. Using my arm as a guide, he blindly punches. His grip prevents me from escaping, and his gigantic fist fills my vision. Black spots erupt behind my eyes, and I stagger from the force of the blow. He releases his hold on my arm, and I stumble back, trying to regain my bearings. My opponent climbs to his feet, sand still streaking his face. A blotch of red stains his pants where I struck him. I've reopened an old wound. He holds my gaze as he lowers his hand to his injured leg. He squeezes the injury and blood oozes out onto his palm. Horrified, I watch as he wipes the fluid across his face, using the streaked scarlet handprint for war paint. He laughs and flashes me a grin.
Now we're matching.
I wipe my forehead, clearing away the blood as it streams from the gash above my eye. The man lets out another rumble of dark laughter. I use his distraction to swing my leg around and boot the hand grasping the hammer. It flips through the air, making a soft thud as it lands in the sand, too far away for my opponent to reach without turning his back to me. He reaches for me angrily with his meaty fists.
Come on.
With my dagger, I step back and slice at him in a wild arc. He grunts and retracts his hand. I glance down at my blade. The tip is stained with red.
You're in for it now, girlie.
Minnie 13 huffs between large breaths. The loud roar, he springs forward, grabs the blade of my dagger in his fist and wrenches it from my hand. He throws it off into the distance, howling in anger. He turns to me, his massive chest heaving and his eyes glinting with murderous rage. A single bead of blood squeezes through the wound in his arm and races to his hand to mingle with the new blood there. It lingers for a moment before it falls to the sand, joining a small pool of crimson at his feet. He clenches his jaw, and a low rumble crawls from his throat. My heart hammers in my chest, and a fresh wave of sweat erupts across my skin. The muscles in my legs twitch against my own violation, and I turn in the gritty sand and bolt. The giant man leaps after me in close pursuit, howling in rage. His anger gives him speed, and I'm not sure I can outrun him for long. There isn't anywhere to run anyway. Every direction leads to a dead end. I change my path and head for the nearest wall. 2013 is now so close that each pass of his hand skims my shirt. I speed up, my feet slipping in the loose sand. As I approach the wall, I manage a full sprint, doing my best to ignore the goblins peering over the edge. I run 3 steps up the barrier using my momentum and push off hard. I somersault in the air above the angry man and land lightly in the sand behind him. I pounce on his back and wrap my right arm around his thick neck, using my other to lock it in place. Scrabbling, I push my knees into his back and use the angle to increase the amount of force I can apply to his throat. The big man scratches brutally at my arms, tearing at the flesh. His sharp nails cut through my skin, leaving smears of our blood all over me. But his struggles are in vain. I have a grip on him, so forceful I cannot be pried off. The fear of what will happen to me if I let go gives me strength. 2013 stops ripping the skin from my arms and tilts his head, as if an idea has just struck him. The side profile of his reddened face reveals a glinting bloodshot eye and a wicked smile. Whatever is causing that smile, I'm sure it won't be good for me. 2013 takes a few steps, staggering under our combined weight. He steadies himself and takes in a struggling breath. Turning, he runs at top speed towards the wall and throws himself at it. He twists his body as he jumps, so I'm between him and the wall. The impact makes a sickening crunch. All the air is forced from my lungs. I grip my teeth and hold on for dear life. A metallic flavor fills my mouth and I spit a mouthful of blood into the sand. I don't know how much longer I can keep this up. But then 2013 falls, grunting as his knees hit the sand. But I can't let him go until he has lost consciousness. His ice blue eyes meet mine, and his strangled voice escapes his purple lips.
You fight well, girlie.
I harden my heart, move my feet to the sand and apply all the pressure I can manage on the big man's throat. 2013's arms go slack and his head rolls forward in my arms. I'm sorry, I whisper to the giant man, removing my arms and dropping him at my feet. I step back, just in case it's a trick. I wipe the sweat and blood from my brow, watching and waiting. But the man lays still in the sand. There is a brand burnt deep into the flesh of his left shoulder, 2013, with a large S above it for Scarlet Guard. He was a voluntary gladiator. Somehow that doesn't provide any consolation for what I have done. I commit the number to memory, like so many times before. I can't let my gaze linger. I must always appear strong. Weak gladiators are publicly executed, or worse, given to the goblins. I've been told stories about the goblins, and even heard for myself the screams that come from the nearby caverns when they are given a new victim. My neck prickles as the tiny hairs rise, as if trying to distance themselves from my thoughts. Shaking myself out of my dark thoughts, I chance one last glance at the still body at my feet. My stomach churns, and the unpleasant burning of bile climbs up my throat. I raise my eyes to the stands above, and the crowd's deafening roar rushes to my ears. The monsters in my vision clap, laugh, and fight with each other over lost bets. They love it when smaller gladiators beat the bigger ones. It's disgusting. The electric lights that beat down on my back are hot, and I can feel my tender skin screaming in protest. I lift my arm, taking care to be slow. Even with my delicate movement, a sharp pain stabs my chest. The wall sandwiching must have broken some ribs. Great, I mutter with an eye roll, lowering my arm and trying not to wince. A mouldy green goblin ambles to the edge of the grey platform and waves to get the crowd's attention. Thanks to magic, the goblin's voice drifts over the stands and drowns out the bickering masses.
Well, what an exciting match! Gladiator 2013 wasn't at all prepared for how feisty 1408 is.
The monstrous crowd laughs and roars its approval. I stare at the ground and my stomach gurgles as if it might throw up the goblin's words in an attempt to expel them forever from my mind and body.
We're lucky today to be joined by our mighty leader, Emperor Darkmoor, who has decided to flatter us with a few words.
The goblin squeaks, holding out a flabby arm toward Emperor Darkmoor. Empress Darkmoor rises from his seat and struts to the platform's edge. His blue skin stands out in contrast to the mouldy green goblin beside him. I stare up at the loathsome being as he preens his long black hair around twisted grey horns. I don't know what Emperor Darkmoor is. He's a monster, I'm sure of that, but he doesn't resemble any other creature in his underworld domain. He could be human if it wasn't for his horns and goat-like legs. He is tall and skinny, or maybe that's just in contrast to the squat goblin beside him. It is hard to believe a being with such a weak frame can control thousands. Yet, it isn't his frame that controls us. His magic is what holds us down. His sorcery is what his followers crave. Darkmoor looks out at the crowd of goblins as they wait for him to speak, their excitement palpable.
This is a momentous occasion.
Darkmoor announces in a deep voice.
This is 1408's 100th gladiator match.
The crowd goes nuts and my throat tightens. 100 matches mark me as a mass murderer. Emperor Darkmoor smiles and raises his hands.
As you know, not many gladiators make it to 100 matches, as they have a tendency to die before then.
The crowd laughs too loudly at his joke, and I have to wait long minutes for their laughter to die down. Darkmoor gestures towards me.
In celebration of her 100th match, 1408 has been promoted to the status of Prime Gladiator. She will receive extra privileges, new armor, and you will encounter her more often in the arena.
What a prize. An increase in the frequency of my gladiator matches is the last thing I need. No one reaches the status of Prime Gladiator and stays there long. The goblins chant Emperor Darkmoor's name like he had just given them a great gift. Emperor Darkmoor gives a small bow and vanishes in a magical cloud of black light. The goblin announcer squeaks and scampers away, as if the black cloud had burnt him. A gate slams and I turn to see 4 armed scarlet guards enter the arena. They approach me with caution, probably because revved up gladiators are extremely dangerous. Or maybe it's because I am well known for giving broken noses to whoever tries to chain me up after a battle. 2 of the guards give me a wide berth, each one grabbing an arm of the giant man. They drag him through the arena towards the exit, his body leaving a deep trail as it scuffs through the sand. I watch them for a moment before turning toward the 2 remaining guards and holding out my hands. The older guard shoves the younger one toward me. The man pauses. His armor is too big for him and awkwardly hangs over his body. He gulps and approaches with short, slow steps, like I'm some kind of wild animal. He holds the iron shackles out, the chain between them clinking softly. I'm tired, sore, and in no mood for the chaos that will ensue if I break the young guard's nose. So, I stand still and let his shaking hand snap the cold metal around my raw wrists. He fumbles with the lock and the clasp clicks. He jumps back, his hands over his head and his face scrunched up, as he prepares for an attack that never comes. He opens his eyes a crack, realizes he isn't going to get hit, and scampers over to the other guard before I can change my mind. I almost feel sorry for him. Neither man makes a move towards me. I roll my eyes and trudge towards the arena exit. The older guard gives me a sharp shove from behind, trying to make it seem like he is in charge of the situation. Apparently, he's much braver now that I'm restrained, and he's behind me. Another shove to my lower back causes me to stumble. A low, frustrated growl arises from my throat as I turn to face the 2 guards. The look on my face has them taking a few hasty steps back. After they retreat a respectable distance, I resume the slow walk to the infirmary. The adrenaline is wearing off, and with it comes a sickly tickle in my throat and the uncomfortable churning of my stomach that accompanies it. More sensations to add to the unpleasant pounding in my head and the ache of my ribs. Blood trickles down my face, rolling across my cheek and down my neck, tugging on every fine hair on its travels, as it does its best to cling to a spot and remain there. It has been many seasons since I was last punched in the face. I really should have seen that blow coming. Under normal circumstances, I would have been more guarded. Perhaps the subconscious worry about my mother's upcoming review put me off my best defense. But still, I managed to survive this round, and with any luck, I'll get out of the infirmary in time to see my mother before her slave shift starts. With that in mind, I walk a little faster. And that's the end of this chapter of Katera Rising. What did you think of Claire's fight in the arena? Would you have handled it differently? Or do you think 2013 had it coming? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Things are only going to get more intense from here. So make sure you're subscribed and have notifications on because you don't want to miss what happens next. What's waiting for Claire beyond the arena? Stay tuned for the next chapter of Katera Rising. Subscribe now and be the first to hear it.